Hey guys, welcome back to the show. We have no guest tonight. We're going to do a live Q&A. We're going to answer all of your questions. We are going to talk about current events. Hurricane Helene. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Helene. I think it's how you say it. Helene.
Helene. Okay, so we're going to we're going to share our thoughts on that. We're going to go over all kinds of stuff, but most importantly, we're going to answer your questions. We're going to wait a little bit before, while people still roll in. But if you guys have been to one of these before, you know, if you want to ask a question, please put question in all caps before your question so we can identify it in the chat and it doesn't get lost in the mix. And ask us anything. We're just going to have some fun with this tonight. And we are also going to be talking about promoting our conference we just announced, Rebels of Disclosure 2025. That website is live now, journeytotruth.online. You can buy tickets there. There's early bird passes for $355 for 4 days. And that includes a t-shirt and a live stream link, a live stream pass. And it's a great deal. And that ends on Black Friday. The live stream passes are also discounted for the early bird special at $55 a ticket, and that will jump up after Black Friday as well. So make sure you take advantage of that. We still waiting on some people to come in here tonight. How's it going over where you're at, Aaron?
Good. It's going good. How are you?
Perfect. What are your thoughts on this hurricane?
I mean, it's insane. I've never seen anything like it. I never expected that area to get hit by a hurricane, much less that much devastation. I mean, that's just, and it definitely looks like it was an engineered thing, like it's sped up when it hit land and then sped up to that specific area. And then when you look at there just happens to be a huge lithium deposit right there. There just happens to be a huge quartz that's, really pure quartz that's used for AI stuff. It just happens to be designated for smart city. There's all these things that line up to like why they wanted that to happen. On top of the election is about to happen in like a month, and they're trying to maybe also start as much chaos as possible before that. And same with all these ports closing at the exact time that this happens. Like, seems a little too coincidental to me to just be
Right.
a chance thing that just happened. I mean, I know there's like a lot of solar storms and the energies are high. There's a lot of, I think there might be some earth stuff. There's people, a lot of like spiritual people are talking about, well, this is like Gaia is releasing, energy and things. Maybe there's some of that mixed in, but it definitely seems to at least definitely be nefariously engineered by the bad guys.
I mean, 100%. And I'm gonna actually play a video. It's the best coverage on it being a manipulated storm that I've seen yet. This guy, I can't even think of the name of his Instagram account right now, but we'll see it whenever we play it. It's a couple minutes long, but it's gold from start to finish, and it covers everything. But the most tragic thing is obviously the lives lost. I think the body count is way higher than we've been told. Yeah, I've been
Oh,
hearing.
it's got to be way higher than what they're saying. They're saying like 220, I think is the highest I've seen, that they've officially are saying. But then they're also saying there's 13,000 missing people,
Right.
which most, if not all of those are also should be counted as that.
And this is, let me see, I can get my cursor over here. It's really interesting because they're denying help. Anybody who's
Yeah.
sending, first of all, now that Red Cross and FEMA has like stepped in, and the National Guard and stuff, any donations that come to them, they don't get entirely used for the town, for Asheville, right? It
Yeah.
goes into their
Yeah.
whatever database of
Yeah.
uh,
And they're threatening to arrest
yeah,
people if you try to help and you're not right. It has to be done through these things, and like they're literally, people are dying and desperate, and they're literally arresting or threatening to arrest people for helping them. Like, think of how fucked up that is. That
right.
is beyond. I mean, this is connected to our government. Like this is what, you know, the current administration especially is, you know,
Well,
tied to this stuff, and then they throw a $750 slap in the face, you know, like
right.
as if it's actually helping anything.
Like the money, people don't need money. I mean, they need
Right,
money for
right.
the,
Like that's not what is needed right now, you know. Meanwhile, Trump actually gets down there and is actually acting like the president,
right.
um, which, you know,
And you know, Abby Lynn shared something today. I'm going to read it just because it's interesting. It's a text from somebody. I'm going with, and it's like redacted. It's blanked out. I'm
mm,
going with blank guys tomorrow to deliver supplies. We're not taking our trucks, just a dually with a trailer. A friend of blank from blank works on a rescue team up there. They said they pulled over 1,000 bodies just today.
yeah,
She also said the same thing about the looting and shootings. In her words, people are going feral because they don't have any food or water.
yeah, they're
They
desperate. Yeah,
Right. They are keeping the news crews out because of the devastation. But it's really interesting that they said within basically within 24 hours, these people are going feral. And I forgot who it was. They predicted like if we lose power within 24 hours, people will go feral. They'll start looting. I
yeah.
mean, if you lose everything,
It would start within 24 hours, and
yeah,
it would get progressively worse each
right,
day from that point.
right,
So think
right,
about how crazy in a week from when power goes out or things get cut off, how
right.
bad things get. I mean, this is like an example of, I mean,
Well,
this
and
is,
right, and the National Guard, you know, not the National Guard, the military, but they weren't sending in the
they weren't
helicopter.
sending in the National Guard or the military, right?
But I did see some videos, like a lot of civilian contractors stepped up, and a lot of people who own civilian like helicopters, and there
Right.
was a number of them. So there is like a rescue happening,
Which is
and
amazing, but ask yourself, why does it have to be that? Why are we doing the job that the military is literally there supposed to be there to do, and they're not doing it? Why
right,
are we doing the job that literally our government is supposed to be there to do and is not doing it?
right,
And is literally arresting people who are actually doing that job or trying to do that job. Like,
and
think
you
of
know,
how fucked up I mean,
and
it's
they're like taking the money and throwing it into their pot that gets used for
right,
any national disaster, not just that one. So there are
right.
people out there that are like, if you donate to the right people, people are making videos left and right. Like if you can
Yeah.
get the money to the right people, they're going to personally make sure it's going to supplies
Mm-hmm.
and getting to the families and stuff. But the footage is absolutely devastating. And I've been watching a lot of it just because I'm like, this is unreal. And okay, so I was at the gym today and I had the TV on the whole time, the news.
Mm-hmm.
Not once did they say anything about the hurricane in Asheville. And they're literally talking
Unbelievable.
about like Amazon Prime and
Un
yeah.
Unbelievable.
But it's like, okay, you know, I was only there for an hour, but still in that hour span, you think it would be like breaking
The
news.
number one, it
Right,
should be. Think of the death toll alone, and that's why they're not reporting the real numbers, because think of how many people died on 9/11, for example. It was like 2,400, what like it was between 2 and 3,000, right? Let's just say 2,500 ish.
right,
Okay, well, that's why they're only saying, oh, it's like 200 now, 220. When you, like you said, those people literally in one day alone pulled over 1,000 bodies, so that disproves it alone.
well,
And there's 13,000 plus missing people. Well, there you go. The death toll is over 13,000, and they're not reporting it. So otherwise, they would have to be the number one headline. They would have to
let's
be on that
right.
scale, and they would
Let's
have to report on it.
let's read through some of these comments. It's interesting. FEMA pulled out, stating they're broke, spent all their funds on immigrants. I wouldn't be
Oh yeah,
surprised if Kamala wins. We are in a negative timeline. Yes. Uh,
yes,
Something else I saw here. FEMA also just closed the garbage dumps, landfills, Pinellas County, Florida, St. Pete, and told dumpster operators to return the trash to people's yards and driveways and wait for FEMA to get over to it. Wow. Um, Apparently, what did they say? FEMA pulled out because FEMA pulled out, stating that they're broke, spent all their funds on immigrants. That's just crazy.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
They spent like $1 billion on immigrants, and then they have nothing left over now that an actual disaster, what FEMA exists for. Oh, sorry, we can't do anything because we already spent all our money.
I want to play a video right now. This would be a good time to play a video. I actually was going to start this a little more lighthearted and play something else, but we'll save that. We'll save that for just a little bit, since we're in the middle of talking about this now. I'm going to go ahead and play this video from Instagram. I need to share my screen first. Okay. Switch again, share screen, share sound. All right, can you see the guy in a four-wheeler?
Yep.
First of all, this meme's great. Reminder that in almost any emergency situation, but especially in natural disasters, one redneck friend or neighbor is worth 1,000 PhDs.
Yeah, I saw that today.
Right. I mean, it's so true.
Very true. Yeah. Somebody with real life skills.
Right. The book smarts aren't going to get far. Yeah.
Like that's real world skills to me, not the BS Matrix skills for the most part.
Right. Oh shit, it's switching screens.
At least 90% of them.
Hang on, I gotta switch screens now that this is, we're just gonna watch it here. On how you guys can't see that because it switched monitors on me. Let me figure out how to get it over to the other monitor real quick. Okay, now you should be able to see that. Okay, so this is called How to Steer a Hurricane into Thin Air on Instagram. Absolutely fantastic video. We're going to let it play.
How to steer and control hurricanes and tornadoes? Yes, this is very real and it's backed by sources, as well as our own NOAA website, which discusses weather manipulation and what steps you or I would have to take in order to do our own weather manipulation. My friends, this is no joke. Many people believe that weather manipulation was used for Hurricane Helene, then somehow coincidentally stalled over the rare lithium producing towns of Western North Carolina, which is the exact location of the largest lithium deposit we have in the United States. Now, something to keep in mind while moving forward, ever since we left Afghanistan, we have lost the ability to mine lithium there, where most of it used to come from. Now we are stuck having to fill this insane demand we have for this lithium right here in the United States. Once again, the largest deposit being right over the towns that just got completely destroyed by this hurricane. Alright, so before I tie this all up with this lithium situation, this video you're looking at right now went super viral over the last few days. We have over 3 million views on this clip here, where we are talking about these weird anomalies that were taking place right before landfall of Hurricane Helene. There's a lot of controversy about what's going on here, but these things pointed directly to where we saw landfall. Not only that, but we saw some weird scalar looking beams in there, a lot of weird stuff that we were breaking down, and it's causing a lot of talk about this situation, which is the point here. We've already established that weather manipulation exists, but I want you to take a look at this website from 2007, my friends. That's 17 years ago. And it came out from the Telegraph. It says, "Scientists a step closer to steering hurricanes." Now, in this article, they explain how they are using technology in order to control, manipulate, and steer these types of storms, including tornadoes. So when you take things like this, and you also add these patents that have been out for decades, you begin to see a picture being painted of what is really going on. Now, this isn't to say that every bit of weather is manipulated and controlled. It means that they have the capability of doing this, and it's right in your face. Now, I can't say for sure that Hurricane Helene was controlled by this type of technology, but it certainly looked like it was, and it certainly did epic, record-breaking damage that we have not seen in any of our lifetimes. So this will come down to you making your own conclusions and taking the data and making your own educated decisions on what you're seeing. We we're in a place in history where it's almost impossible to be able to trust our own media or government. And I don't need to go over explanations on why that is. So now that we have all these steps in place, think about the situation as a whole. This wild hurricane comes barreling towards Florida, and we suspected that once this thing got close to land, it would rapidly intensify, and that's exactly what it did. And in my opinion, the reason that happened is because once it got close enough to our next rad radar towers, it was then able to be influenced, as I've shown in many videos. Alright, now finally, I just want to conclude with this. 1 year ago, almost to the day, as you can see in this article, North Carolina lithium mine to reopen with $90 million Pentagon order to help increase U.S. production. My friends, if this is not screaming to you right now, I don't know what else can. Just take a look at how much lithium we've used year to year up to 2024, and then once again ask yourself, what are the chances that this flood takes place in the biggest spot in the United States that we can even mine this stuff? My friends, the information's there, it's been there, and if you don't go check it out now, it might not be there forever. I appreciate you all. I'm praying for every single person affected by this storm. What we are seeing out there is absolute tragedy, and it seriously makes my heart break. All right, everyone, until the next video, I will talk to you all very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
So, I mean, that's pretty
There you
wild.
go.
That is wild. Let me stop. I don't even know what happened to the.
Yeah, you can even see like the scalar beams, like he said, and that.
Right. I
Mm.
mean,
I mean,
that type of stuff is absolutely. I mean, if you're looking for smoking gun evidence, I mean, how do you deny some of that
right.
stuff? And that was just one quick clip. If you really watch the videos and how they're being broken down and all that stuff, it's absolutely insane. I mean, they're just like, there's no length
Right.
they won't go to.
Mm-mm.
What does
Nope.
this say? There is no line they won't, there is no line they will not cross to manipulate their way into achieving their agenda, period. And that's where
Right.
we're at with that. So
Here we go, real quick. Kitty McFeisty. That storm was not supposed to naturally do what it did. Lifelong Floridian here, unprecedented. There you go. So people who have lived in Florida their entire lives, who have seen many hurricanes, who know what it's supposed to look like, what they naturally do, they have never seen what this did. They've never seen it before. That
right.
should tell you something.
And if you have an electric car and you're mad about the storm, maybe you should sell your electric car, because that's why they're mining the
Right.
lithium.
That's why they're mining, and there's an agenda behind that of why they want everyone on an electric car, everything on electric, because you're
Right.
on a controllable grid. They have the switch to.
Right.
That is the agenda. I mean, and then it even goes deeper than that, really. But you know,
Right. Yeah, we'll see what happens, but either way, I really think that, we should just send our prayers to these people. There was a meditation that Alex Bloom did the other night that was beautiful, that we participated in, and I, uniting even mentally, consciously, really does affect things. So we can send as much love and energy over there as we can, and I think that's
yes,
so.
absolutely.
Guys, this is a live Q&A, right? So if you have any questions, we're going to go ahead and segue into taking your questions now. Like I said, put question in all caps before your question, and we will get to them in a timely fashion. We will get to them between 8 and 12 or 1 and 5. Okay, question. Have you heard valid concerns about workers hearing children in the containers? Oh, you know what? I just did hear something about containers.
Did you see that video?
I don't think so. No.
Oh, here, maybe I can send it to you. No, I thought I sent it to you on Instagram, maybe.
I mean, maybe I've seen it. I don't know, But
yes, the workers were hearing. He was saying the real reason for the strike, which caused the port closings, is that so many workers were hearing children's screams and people banging on the shipping containers for so long that they finally were like, we're done. Like, I don't know if that's the real reason. I don't know if that's part of the reason, but that's what one guy is saying. Take it with a grain of salt, maybe, but we know that is happening.
Right.
You and me know that is happening, so I would not doubt for a second.
Right. And I was just talking to Lily Nova, and she shared something with me that I'm not going to reshare, but because it's not mine to share, but it pertains to children in shipping containers and Hawaii, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I mean, that she's tapping into that same stuff right now. But either way, I think that, I mean, that has been happening. If you remember during COVID with the two ships that went to
Evergreen.
the
Oh, that was
Mercy,
different.
the Mercy and the medical hospital ships that went
Oh,
to
yeah.
New York and California, and people say that they were bringing children up from underground and like from Central Park and then bringing them straight on to the hospital ships, and that's what the ships were really there for. They weren't actually for the COVID people, you know.
Right.
And then that just got swept under the rug as a conspiracy theory, and then that was it. And
Right.
you had even diehard truthers like trying to debunk it too, but I've been like, no, I feel that. I'm like, that's what this looks like, you know. They're gonna have to hide it somehow. So it
Right.
could, if it is happening, when they're not gonna tell us, we have to get reports like that and then connect the dots.
Right. They're not gonna, no one's gonna like hand you what's really going on that level on a
Right.
silver platter. Like, we should not be expecting that for any of this kind of stuff, guys.
So
it doesn't mean, again, though, that doesn't mean every little thing you hear is true. You have to do your own due diligence and figure out what's going on, because sometimes there's rumors that get spread around or things that get, you could easily, like, you know, it could make it look like something is happening when it's not. But there's a lot happening, though, no matter what. And there's a lot of nefarious dark stuff coming into light, and there's a lot of chaos. But I do believe we're on the positive timeline. I think these are all just combination of last death throes of the dark in their system and birthing pains, so to speak, of the new. It's kind of both going on, in my opinion.
Right. Sarah, we will get to your question in just a second. Zach, we'll get to your question in just a second. Just while we have everyone here, really quick, when I announced it earlier, there was only 30 people here. So we just announced our conference for 2025, Rebels of Disclosure in Grafton, Illinois, May 12th to the 15th. Tickets are now available. Here's the website. If you just, you can click join our conference, click the events page, or just scroll down and click purchase tickets and learn more here. And it should take you to the next page. And here we go. We have the early bird pass for $355. It includes a live stream pass and t-shirt, ends on Black Friday. And the live stream pass is also discounted until Black Friday for only $55. And it does include the replay. There's one-day passes and meal plans, as always. And speaker lineup is not solidified yet. We still have a few people we're waiting to hear back from, and we will announce those once they're confirmed, or if we have to find someone else. But so far we have Lily Nova, Patrick Riley, who was incredible information about the secret space program. He's former Army, 16-year combat veteran. Laura Van Tyne, Daryl James, Leah Ray. She's fantastic with the Akashic Records. Susan Manowich, who has an incredible ET experience or testimony, and so much more than that. Ed Spina, a lot of people love Ed. They're excited about him. Sherry Divban and our good friend, Dr. Alex Bloom, who's a spiritual psychologist, I think. And we're just really excited about the lineup this year. Schedules coming soon, just to look at the website. So yeah, so if you haven't, grab a ticket and come hang out with us. We can't wait to see you there. And I am going to play actually, I'm going to stop this share and switch screens again. I am going to play a promo that we made for the conference. This is the debut promo. Can you see the screen, Aaron?
Yeah.
With George?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. So here's a promo we made, and if you guys are, Aaron and I spent a lot of time on this, and we're really proud of it. So anyway,
Yeah.
Oh crap, hang on. I'm ruining it because my screen just hang on, I have to stop the share again.
What's going on?
It's hard to explain. So it cut off when I maximized it, it cut off the play button, so I can't click play.
Oh,
So I have to
I think I could see the play button on my end.
right, but I can't see it on
Can't see it.
my own screen to even I can't even do anything with it now. Well, maybe we won't play it right now.
Does the space bar not work to play?
Well, the thing is I can't, yeah, it probably will,
You try it.
but I need to be able to, the screen isn't shared right now, is it?
No, not right now.
Okay, here, let's just take another question while I figure this out. So what's next on the list? Where do I go? Question. Do you think that we are in the best possible timeline, medium, best, bad, good? I would say we are on the solidified timeline, which would technically be the best timeline, the front timeline.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I'll say about that. So that's kind of a relative term anyway, best, because like what does best even mean? You know, depending on who you talk to, everyone's going to have a different opinion on exactly what that looks like, right? So there's a big degree of subjectivity to what best and even good really is. But what I think the timeline that we're on, rather than saying it that way, I would say it's the one that is for our highest good. It's the one that is for humanity's highest good. And it's exactly what we need to grow, to evolve, and to thrive. So because some people might have this vision of like, oh, if we're on the highest timeline, that means next week or next year we're all going to get millions of dollars, and we're all going to be, the ships are all going to land and open contact immediately, and blah blah blah. And while those things are great, and all the nonsense is going to end immediately, while those things are great, there has to be a transition, because we are the ones really in charge here, and we have to remember that. How humanity is collectively, and obviously there's each individual person is at a different place, but there is an overall collective of where overall generally everyone is at, or enough people are at. Maybe it's going to play out where there's kind of like a split where like different areas of the planet are kind of playing out differently. I think there's going to be some maybe of that going on, but overall there's still a timeline, right? We're the ones determining how it plays out. So
Right.
Don't get so caught up in like always thinking about what is the future, what's coming in the future, what timeline are we on, blah, blah. Well, you're creating that in the present moment. We're all creating that in the present moment. Yeah, we have help. Yes, there's benevolent help and higher dimensional beings and ETs, along with white hats on the ground at 3D, along with whatever else, divine intervention, the divine help. But ultimately we have to help ourselves, and we're the ones determining how it actually plays out. So that's where you find the balance, because you get all the people that are always upset about oh, stop talking about white hats and Q and ETs and people, like that's all giving your power away, which there's a degree of truth to that. People can give their power away to those things, and then that's when that becomes a negative, because now you're giving your power away to something else, and you're not actually the one creating in the now, which is what we need to come back to. But then there's the other extreme where you totally discount all of those things, and or even get black pilled, so to speak, where you're in the doom and gloom, where you're like, oh my God, we're all screwed unless everyone wakes up tomorrow, and that's never gonna happen, so we're all screwed. Like, and then you're actually also creating that, because that's where you're at in the present. So we all need to find that balance of not giving your power away, not going too extreme on the hopium where you're giving your power away, but not getting black pilled in the doom and gloom, and not thinking that we have no help, and that it's like, oh, it's so stacked against us and everything. Look how controlled it all is. And we just have to like, everything has to just like, millions and millions of people have to die before we'll ever even no. Like I think there's divine help. There's a plan going on for humanity where these higher forces, God, also whatever you want to call it, knows where we're at, knows us better than we know ourselves, and it knows exactly what we need to evolve and to thrive, and what's going to actually serve us. So I think that's the timeline we're on. However you want to call that, the highest timeline, or, you know, I just call it the divine universe that we're in. There are no mistakes in this universe because it's a divine conscious universe. That's all that exists is divine energy, which is love, which is God. It's all the same thing. So how can there ever be a mistake of like, oh, we're on the wrong timeline? It's like, well, then that if you're on that timeline, that's the timeline we've collectively chosen through our free will. So really, it always comes back to us. Like,
Right.
what timeline are you choosing?
And
What
it's
timeline are you choosing?
and it's volatile too. So it's like
Right, and it's volatile. It doesn't mean it's
it,
going to be smooth sailing.
it's like the market, right? It's like crypto. So every single day, like you could wake up tomorrow and choose the lower timeline. It's that
Right,
easy. And you could
right,
subconsciously choose it by buying into something or allowing yourself to be distracted, by not being self-aware and not even being situationally aware. So not that
right,
you're going to stay stuck on that timeline, but we go back and forth and we move back and forth all the time. And technically you're meeting people and you're interacting with people that are on other timelines, but it's
right,
not, there's no hard line to
right,
distinguish whether or not you're on the same timeline or not. It's a frequency, it's a vibration. And that's
right.
why when we connect like at these conferences and stuff, or just when we know like somebody is our soul family and we're doing this work, like we can collectively, like we feel like we're on that frequency, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that we're even talking about timelines is a great indicator that we're
Right.
on, because
Right. The fact that
like,
we're having this discussion is a great indicator
right.
that things are going in the right direction.
I
Right.
mean, really zoom out and think about it, because there's a large percentage of the planet that isn't talking about timelines right now. And
Right.
you go to somebody on the street and say something about the highest timeline, they'll be like, "What are you talking about?" It's just not common talk. We're so used to it, and it just seems to be coming
Right.
up in the collective like truther community, but it's not global. And I mean, maybe not, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Now, in that being said, a person doesn't have to even have the conscious awareness of that, or even like ETs, or even the cabal, or even, any of this stuff. But if they're living sovereign in their sovereignty and truth and integrity, for the most part, that's their trajectory, and they're contributing to that type of a timeline, whether they realize it or not. Whether you're realizing it or not, you're always contributing to whatever your personal timeline. I think there's personal ones, and then there's the collective.
Okay.
And we're all affecting each other. We're always contributing to our personal timeline, and we're also always contributing to the collective timeline. And wherever your frequency is at is what you're a match to, and that's what the outer reality is going to reflect back to you.
Mhm.
And
I mean,
we're
you can
moving from most of humanity being asleep to all of this stuff, being asleep at the wheel, so to speak, to we're finally waking up to the true nature of reality and who we truly are, and how that we're in this divine universe, that everything is not happening to us, it's happening for us. We just have to wake up and realize that. Then we can take our power back and not have to go through so much crap that is super traumatic and hard to learn lessons, or that we don't destroy ourselves and the planet in the process of just living, because we're so asleep and reacting to things all the time that we end up
so
we're on a
um,
frequency of destruction, and that's what will manifest when you're on that frequency. More destruction outside of you. You
Zach
win the
said,
war within yourself to win the war without. You win the war within to win the war without. That's how it works.
Zach says if we were on the negative timeline, Trump would have never won in 2016. Right.
Right, right, exactly. that's a great indicator in my opinion.
And that's the completely debatable too, but because you know, there's a lot of people right now that are like the media is getting everyone to hate Trump again.
Trying
And
to, yeah.
they're trying to, but it's happening. It's like I've been overhearing people and seeing like an unusual amount of like Kamala Harris signs. And I'm
Yeah.
like it's like this, I don't know if people are just being paid to put them in their yards or what. I don't
Well, I think, yeah, there's that too.
but the thing is that you know, it's debatable, but the fact that regardless, he's been standing in their way for a long time, and there's a reason they're trying to take him out. But we won't focus too much on Trump.
In my opinion, what that is so like remember I was saying before, like we're in the last death throes of these dark controllers and their system, and so they're throwing out all the stuff. They're putting out all the stops. They're throwing out everything they can. So all their mind control, all their emotional manipulation. They're going like full pedal to the floor right now. So everyone who's susceptible to that is like completely getting taken over by that right now. And that's why I think it seems to be like, holy shit, like where did all this come from? Because we're seeing the split. So you hear people talk about the split, right? Well, there is this seemingly a split of like consciousness of the people that are like have been vibrating at this lower frequency, that have been more like matrix minded, asleep, like however you want to say it, susceptible to the mind control. They're going more and more in that direction, getting more extreme, more susceptible to mind control, getting more emotional about the things that they're being manipulated to be emotional about, supporting the agendas even harder, you know, like all of it. So we're seeing that, but we're also seeing this amazing awakening and spiritual awakening and this beautiful blossoming happening with other people as well at the same time. And so you're seeing the two polarities, the two extremes of that. It's like, whereas like we used to be closer, a little bit closer together, and now it's like we're getting farther apart. But the people over here, we're seeing that, and we're seeing the fear, you know, getting intensified and the hate getting intensified in that. And then what they're being told is something else is happening. And it's like at a certain point, this is why I think, like, I really do think maybe how this plays out, you know, we're still in the chaotic phase right now, and there's destruction happening. I mean, this hurricane thing was another thing of like chaos and destruction, where part of this bumpy ride, you know, that's moving into once it gets more on the other side of it. I think it's going to end up in the future where, like, for a time, at least for a time, there's going to be pockets of the higher vibrational souls and people that are going to have to, because literally it's going to be painful for people like that to live in a big city matrix area where there's a whole bunch of people all like that, you know, and a whole bunch of like EMFs and everything else, right? And it's not about ego, or it's not about we're better than you, or it's just literally about vibration. It's like science, really. It's just vibration. Everything is frequency, vibration, and energy, right? So I mean, think about it, like everyone has a free will choice. Everyone's being given a choice. Everyone right now is really being pushed by the universe to choose fear or love, fear or freedom, fear, manipulation and control, or self-empowerment and sovereignty, like all of those things. And you have to choose. No one can choose it for you. And I think we're seeing all the people that were like, holy shit, like you just said, like they're making their choice. You can see external sign, like those are external manifestations of an internal choice that those people are making, whether they realize it or not. So I think that's just getting intensified more and more, you know, from here on out until we see like kind of the end result of those two energies.
What you guys don't know is Aaron is actually reading from his book right now.
I am not actually, but all that kind of stuff is in my book.
There is
read my book.
230 plus people here, and there is literally no questions, and the title is live Q&A. So you guys have free will to ask us anything you want about anything, and there are no questions. So, um,
Come on,
okay.
guys.
I'm going to take this opportunity to play the video I was going to try to play earlier. Let me share my screen. Now, if you guys weren't here just a few minutes ago, this is a conference promo that Aaron and I made, and it's the first one, so we're just going to play it and hopefully get people excited to watch, to join the conference. Can you see this, Aaron?
Yeah.
Okay. Wait, I need to make sure I shared the sound. Just because that would be a fail if I didn't. Yeah, it's shared. All right, here we go.
Hello, and welcome to Conference Phone. If you know the name of the conference you'd like to attend, press 1.
Come on.
Using your touch-tone keypad, please enter the first 3 letters of the conference title now. You've selected Secret Space Conference? If that is correct, press 1.
What?
You've selected Full Disclosure Now. If this is correct, press 1. Why don't you just tell me the name of the conference you'd like to attend?
Rebels of Disclosure?
To find the venue nearest you, please enter your 5-digit zip code now. Why don't you just tell me where you want to attend the conference?
Pierre Marquette Lodge and Conference Center?
Rebels of Disclosure is playing at the Pierre Marquette Lodge and Conference Center in Grafton, Illinois, May 12th through 15th, 2025.
Yeah, now I got you.
If you would like to purchase tickets, please visit journeytotruth.online now. Hello, and welcome to Conference Phone. If you know the name of the conference you'd like to...
Wait again.
Right, I know, I'm trying to stop it. Okay. So, now that that's out
Any
of the way.
Any Seinfeld fans?
Yeah, any Seinfeld fans, that was just a joke, guys. At least Fictitious liked it. So,
Best
all right,
promo we've done so far.
we will get to your questions now. Let me make that bigger again.
That was lit. Yeah, love Seinfeld before, you know. Yeah, we got some Seinfeld fans here. Yay.
So every time I send Aaron a Zoom link for the episodes, the subject in the email is a Seinfeld reference.
For like 5 years now, every time Tyler sends me the email for the Zoom link, the subject of the email is a different Seinfeld line or reference. For like, it's got to be at least like 5 years.
Right.
That's the entire time of the podcast.
Right. Okay, so here we go. Let's go through some of these questions. Make sure we didn't miss any. Question, will you guys do a roundtable show with Ben and Rob one day? We've actually done them in the past with them, but there was, I'll just say, for lack of a better term, a falling out, and we're still on good terms, but we just don't really affiliate anymore for personal reasons. So
yeah,
we'll just leave it there. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility, but that's where we stand as far as that goes. Question, Tyler, tell us about some of the cool places you have visited recently. Well, that's not I mean, you guys, you want to go through the vacation photo albums?
right.
I don't even know. So actually, Lily Nova and I just went to Rock City, Illinois the other day.
I saw that video.
Right.
That's
So
cool.
I actually drove further into the tunnel than I ever have this time. And it is a literal labyrinth. Like, we did come out the other side of the mountain actually eventually, but it still went so many, it spider webbed off so many different ways. And she was getting all kinds of crazy information that she hasn't even shared yet. I think she's going to go live on Sunday talking about it, about what's going on there and underground there and all that stuff. But before that, we drove through Bussin Underground, which is another quarry on the Missouri side. And, you know, there's a public part that you can drive through, but there's so many other entrances. And, you know, it's just fascinating to think like these are just a couple small locations on the surface. That's not even technically the underground because
Right.
you're just inside these mountains. So if that is massive as it was, I mean, you could literally get lost in the one over in Illinois. And it's just absolutely a fascinating place. But there you go. I hope that answers your question. That was one of the places. Question, do you think that there are ETs watching your conferences or will watch your upcoming conference, perhaps disguised? Absolutely. I think that happens more often than people realize.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
ETs in human form are probably, there's a lot more of them here than we realize. And I think that we pass them up all the time. They show up at these conferences. We've probably even interacted with some and didn't know.
Yeah. And I mean, I know they can, for lack of a, you know, to put it simply, appear and disappear, phase in and out, however you want to put it. And I've heard many stories of people like basically experiencing that, where like an ET, suddenly a person's there where like, wait, where'd you come from? And then they turn around, they look back, they're gone, you know, that kind of thing. And it's like, well, that wasn't just a person, you know, clearly.
Right.
And even at conferences, I've heard stories where people were like pretty sure. At our conference, there was it last year that there was an individual, do you know what I'm talking about? Or was it the year before? Am I remembering that correctly? There was somebody that seemed, we don't know, but like, I'm pretty sure like seemed like, we're like, who is that person? You know, and they like, by what they were like doing, it seemed like,
I don't know if I know, do
different.
I know who you're talking about?
You might not be remembering, or maybe you don't. Maybe it was other. I can't remember. I don't know, but that, regardless, I do think that, like you said, a lot of times they'll attend and you just think it's a normal person, because you know they're undercover essentially, and they want to see what we're doing, and
Right.
you know,
I definitely, I mean, and it's funny, I just watched 2 different episodes of Stargate SG-1, I think season 5, back to back. There were 2 episodes about ETs taking human form. One was a light body that took human form and made the decision while it was on Earth that ended up tying it down, restricting it, containing it in the physical vessel. It couldn't go back to the light body anymore because of a conscious decision it made.
yeah,
So it was really interesting, a really interesting episode. So it had the ability to take form and then go back, but it decided to make a decision that would ultimately like tie it to the 3rd dimension. I thought that was interesting. And then the other one was, it wasn't the ETs actually in human form, but the next episode was they encountered an ET who presented themselves as one of the team members of SG-1, like one of the squad leaders, right? Or
yeah,
one of the squad members. And what it was a neurotoxin that he somehow, it was just like a pollen. And all they had to do was touch it for it to get into their blood.
yeah. I
And,
remember that episode.
and it would manipulate their brain, their visual cortex, and they thought that they were seeing a human, but it was actually this ET. But the way it was remaining hidden was by making sure like they all had the pollen, right?
Yeah. And that, well, and by the way, you know, we've heard about ETs that not even through that, they're able to just psychically manipulate your perception of what you're seeing. So like reptilians and I think others have the ability or actively do this, where they're not even like, they don't even have to shape shift. They're just manipulating how you perceive them. And you think you're seeing a normal human when they're just walking around openly themselves.
It was, and that's the whole thing. It was just showing it through the form of a substance, which
Mhm.
if they did need a substance, whatever group it is, I mean, they could easily do that via the chemtrails, or I mean, they can just bomb, crop dust everybody with it, and
Right,
then
right.
they're hidden.
Or that
So
even cameras won't pick it up. But like you said, that one William Tompkins photo that he brought out, that he talked about, where they forgot to switch on the one that like makes it so cameras can't see it, and then the camera
right.
picked it up
Mhm.
when the guy's eyes couldn't see anything in the sky, but the camera, he looked at the photo and there's a ship with this gas coming out.
A bunch
Uh,
of ships, yeah. Right,
yeah,
yeah. We're like dumping the mind control
pumping
gas
the
on.
mind control
Right,
gas because they forgot to cloak from cameras as well or
right.
whatever.
What was interesting though about the Stargate episode was that not only was he able to make them think that he was a human and their friend, but with whatever he was able to do, it gave them a 3 week memory of this person. Like he had just come into their lives like 3 weeks ago, and they had 3 weeks worth of false memories
Hmm.
that helped them become comfortable with him, because all of a sudden, like, oh, I remember you, like you came to work for us 3 weeks ago, but that didn't happen. And it was just bullet point memories, and they explain it in the episode. So all they do to give somebody a false memory is give them the bullet points, and then their mind, their subconscious mind fills in the blanks, fills in the rest.
Right,
So
right.
it's really interesting to think about, what's possible. And when we do have memories that we think are memories, like we have to really make sure they're not screen memories, or we're not being
Mm.
manipulated.
Yeah. Well, and this just made me think of another point of like, so the control system, works on manipulating you mentally mostly, is kind of like how because if they can get you to perceive things and think something, like, then they got you completely mind controlled. But the second we start, our DNA starts turning on, our natural abilities start turning on, we start waking up. It all kind of goes hand in hand. There's a point where we're no longer able to be manipulated, because now um, we can see through it. We know when it's happening. Especially when we start becoming telepathic, you can't lie to us anymore. We know exactly what you're thinking and feeling. Um, when we can feel energy, we can see auras. Like in what was it in the book, 334 Lies?
Right.
He was talking about how he can see auras, and he can literally see just through the color of the aura of a person, whether they're lying or not, whether what they're feeling,
They can see
everything
right
about
through
them,
them.
it tells in the aura. And then he's like, just imagine that one thing, if it got turned on in humanity, you'd be like a million times harder to lie to people, like,
Right.
and
It would be like
transparent.
a muddy aura. Like you would detect
Right,
the deception visually.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So and that's just one thing, and think about everything else. Like, so that's why they're so desperate to lock us down before we start, um, our DNA starts turning on with these energies and with this ascension. They're so desperate to like get the jab going, so that gets cut off and all of that and everything else, because they know it's happening and they know it's game over once we reach a certain point.
Right.
And once
So
we know that there's these other ETs that are higher than them that we can connect with, and not, it's like, wait, you guys aren't the top of the food. Like, wait a second, why are we letting you enslave us when we are these sovereign beings? And then there's also this whole universe of beings out there that is 90 to 95%, not, you guys are like in the minority of like the anti-life, like basically all this stuff is, it's like we're waking up to. And at a certain point, you can't manipulate an empowered race
right.
anymore. We're
Well, and the
becoming
funny
empowered, and we're slipping out of their grasp. That's why they're desperate right now.
the funny thing is too is, reading that Illuminati book, these people, they do have powers that would look like they're using the force, and
Hmm.
levitating and moving out, whatever it is, looks like
Right,
magic.
right.
And effectively, that does give them leverage over another person until the person breaks free from the spell, right? But it's so they all are in there like throttling each other's egos and stabbing each other in the back at the same time, right? But what's
Hmm.
actually happening is their arrogance. They think they're the smartest people in the world because they have these abilities, but they're actually the dumbest people because they actually truly believe that they're never going to get caught.
Right.
And
Right.
so it makes them just like automatically that like it doesn't matter what you can do. Like the fact that you're an idiot because you actually think you're gonna get away with this.
Arrogance is
Yeah,
their downfall because
right,
because they actually truly believe. Yeah. And
right.
then end up, yeah,
So
so arrogance, and then it's kind of like what we're also seeing right now is the snake eating its own tail, where like um especially since in my opinion, the top of the pyramid, whatever that was, in my opinion, that was, you got the reptilians, and then the demonic entities kind of above them, in my opinion. Like whatever you want to consider the top of the pyramid has been cut off. And now what we're seeing is the rest of that still wants control, obviously, still the same beings, but there's no more like their source has gotten cut off of like direction and of hierarchy and of like what to do really. And then there's also an awakening and the white hats and the benevolent forces pushing against that. And they're kind of like eating their own tail, so to speak. They're destroying themselves in the chaos of their own arrogance of like every little faction and every little person wants to be the top person and wants the power over others, and they'll kill each other to get that. Like in that book, again, in that 334 Lies book, he discloses that. He says we'll kill another person in the group to get ahead
right,
in a
yeah.
second, without thought, like in a second, because
If he's a threat to taking your high chair, then
right,
like
right. They don't care. Like they don't even care about each other. They're psychopaths essentially. So like they're gonna kill each other to get on top, and that's what they end up destroying their own efforts
So
because
what
they
you're
destroy them.
saying is reminding me of Nathan Reynolds, that interview on the confessionals. He's a former Illuminati family. He broke free and lived to
Mhm.
tell about it, and it's mind blowing. Like he has some of the most next level information I've ever heard anyone talking about, exposing these secret societies and the family that he was born into, and a lot of it's very graphic. But
Yeah,
he explains, he was part of the Jason programming, like the Jason Bourne, the Bourne Identity movies. He was one of those actual agents, and but he explains how they start the mind fracture at like birth, which we know, but he said that when you are so heavily groomed into those families, you are like as children they have them killing people.
yeah,
They teach the children to kill people and viciously, and they'll put two kids together to fight to the death with knives, and they're splitting they're fracturing their mind. They're splitting them early. But so whenever you live a program, when you're just constantly being programmed and groomed, you don't know another way of life. There is no
right.
breaking free for these people. Like in some miraculous cases, yes, it's possible. But for the most part, these people don't even know that they're doing anything wrong.
They don't view it as that at all.
Right, they
No.
were literally raised to do this. They were born into the families that this is
Yeah,
just common everyday stuff, and they think that's how the world works because that's
right.
just the way that it's always been for them.
Kind of like a
So,
horrific machine that just kind of keeps running, generation family passed down to their children, passed down,
right.
and then there's the political aspect of it going on top of that, right?
Right. So let's go on to the next question. What are your thoughts about the mini moon? Oh, the second moon that's supposed to come and hang out for a while. I think it's very interesting. I don't even know that it's technically a moon or a random thing at all. I think it might be a ship for all we know that just has to park here and it can't, for whatever reason, it can't be hidden. So they just have to give us a cover story.
Yeah,
It's really interesting. That guy, what's his name? That Michael Sala just interviewed.
George Cavassalis.
Yeah, so he was talking about like, being in the upper echelons of the SSP, the US Navy Secret Space Program, and he was talking about eventually we're going to get to a point where they're like our moon, they have to take our moon away again. And I wonder if like them bringing a second moon here, like somehow it's like predictive programming or just like priming us
Mm.
for just another planetary body in the sky. I don't know what, but I feel like there's something with
Or is
it that
that the replacement for when they have to take the moon away? They're
right,
like,
right, yeah,
oh, the second moon's gone, but it's really the original
right,
moon that's gone. And then, I don't
right.
know.
Um, so that's my thoughts on it.
I definitely, all I know is it's not what they're telling us, because of course it's
Right.
not. It's not just,
Right.
oh, it's just a little asteroid that just happened to get in the orbit of the moon and be big enough to call it a second moon. Like, it's ridiculous, you know.
Or if
It's
you're a
something,
flat earth, or if you're a flat earther, it's just another light bulb they turned on.
right, right, right. Or yeah,
It's a
of course.
light bulb, man.
It's just this tiny thing that's spinning
Right.
above us. Yeah, somehow.
So, all right. Question: thoughts on Bashar and his prediction for the election? Actually, we talked about this last Sunday, or yeah, Sunday with Sherry Div Band. It seems to me that it's here's the way I was actually thinking about this today, interestingly enough. So, obviously channelers, this is an information warfare, and if here's what's been happening the past few years with channelers and information about politics. It's always everything that's coming through is always about Trump and the alliance. It's like it always the channeled information is kind of propping Trump up, right? So I feel like these negative groups see that and they're like, oh, why don't we just start giving the channelers information about the other candidate? So I feel like they're like, okay, we're just going to start having these channelers tell people that Kamala is the one. And we're going to have open contact with Kamal. They're going to invert it again through the channeling. And these channelers who've been doing this work for years, if
But
sometimes they just get lazy and they're not checking the source every time, right? And they're
well,
not vetting the source. And I feel like that they get infiltrated, compromised, egos. If they're not properly
ego,
healing, they're going to take advantage of the ego. And I feel like that's what happened to Bashar. I mean, for him to actually literally tell his audience to get the vaccine, and then now this.
and now this. I mean, he is, in my opinion, he is probably the most popular active channeler, like active to this day channeler that's out there. So of course they're going to try to get him to be the one that's saying things like this to influence everyone who just loves him so much. No matter what he says, oh, I'm going to believe that, you know.
Right.
Of course they would do that, and it sucks because 95% at least or more of what comes through him, I wouldn't say him because it's supposed to be
Right.
channeling. I mean, he says it's him from the future essentially. Is absolutely spot on true and is very good stuff in my opinion.
But
But
that's
then
the
there's those
style.
few little things,
Right.
like the only two things, I didn't even hear the Vax one, but I heard other people say that he said it. So apparently he said that. I was like, oh, that's a bummer. And I was trying to give him the benefit that I'm like, maybe there's a reason that came through, for some benevolent, I don't know, whatever. I just I was like, okay, not good, but still everything else I've heard him say is spot on. But now this, I'm like, okay, now he's clearly being used or has been compromised to push their agenda and to get people to believe certain things and
Right. And
steer us onto a natural negative timeline. It's the exact opposite of what he's actually saying, which is the irony of it.
I mean, and the definition of the psyop is 95% truth, 5% or
Right.
whatever. 90,
That's
10,
that's usually how it works.
Right.
Well, that's how it works a lot of the time because they know we have innately the intuition, and we the truth will resonate so strongly that we'll just ignore that other little percent. Well, we won't see the red flag in it. Just take the whole thing without using discernment. We'll just
You
take
won't ignore it.
back.
You won't ignore it. It just won't land. It won't stick.
It won't land. Right.
Yeah.
Well, and people tend to, especially somebody like him who for years and years has been speaking good stuff and has been an influential figure. You tend, the natural tendency, if you don't check yourself and if you don't keep your guard up, is to just believe everything that comes out of his mouth and to just take everything because you love him so much. Oh, I'm such a fan of Bashar. He's amazing. So powerful. And then he says something like that. And for somebody who doesn't know what we know, they're going to just hear that and they're going to just take it, right, and run with it. They're going to be like, oh yeah, okay, I got to vote for her because clearly we need to be on that timeline, clearly. Oh my God.
Here's the way I see it in the first place. Like, how do we know that it always wasn't supposed to be this way? Like just because, like, imagine this being, Bashar starts channeling this entity, right? And the entity is like, oh, this is amazing. Like maybe the entity is like, it's feeding its ego vicariously through a human, right? and it loves it. But we all along, it was just not a big deal to that being, because it was just basic information and whatever stuff that doesn't matter. But now when it's coming down to the wire, we're talking about timelines collapsing, like the breaking point of their reality. They're going to inject, and we're going to see their true colors, and they're going to start telling us things that it's always been there within them, but it doesn't mean they've always been positive. They just kind of been, playing a game, and until now it's getting real.
Yeah. And what if the being that he's been channeling the whole time is from that timeline, that negative dystopian more timeline where the cabal is fully in control, and there's blah blah blah. What if, or whatever, however that is, and he literally is afraid of, like, he's not going to exist anymore if we go down this other timeline. So he's trying to, like, what if there's a bunch of those types of beings that are trying to influence us at this point in the pivotal time we're in now, to where we get steered towards that timeline, into that timeline, because they're literally from farther down that timeline. We know there's a temporal war going on. We know that's happening. We know it's a timeline and temporal war. And there's all kinds of things happening in quantum physics, like the quantum reality is that everything affects everything else. So the present moment, it's trippy to think about, but it affects the past, which we're like, how do you affect the past? It's already happened. Well, it's all quantumly entangled. It also affects the future, which hasn't happened yet, because there's an infinite potential. But that's why I think there are all these, maybe there's all these different timelines based on different trajectories that we were kind of on in the past that played out, but then we got shifted at different points, to where now there's these other trajectories that also there's beings from that future timeline, and maybe they're all doing things to try to make sure that certain timelines play out. It gets mind bending to think about.
That's what the timeline war is. So another question: what do you all think of Tom Paladino's passing? So, I mean, immediately I think everyone I've talked to jumps to the conclusion that he was taken out. The only information that I know, because I haven't looked into his death, was that it was a catastrophic event, and that was the exact words used when they announced his death. So I don't know actually what happened, but it was only, I mean, there's reason to believe he was targeted and taken out because of what he was doing.
Free energy. I mean, Scalar.
Right, and he was offering it for free. Like, he would, like, everybody who wanted to try this technology, he wouldn't charge you the first. Like, he was like, no, I'm going to run this thing, and you tell me if you like it, and if you want to pay for more, then you can. But, like, he was giving it away and showing people how to do it. And whether or not, like, I don't know, sometimes you just get the wrong place, wrong time. I don't know. But I do, our heart goes out to him. It was an amazing episode, and he was doing some great work. And I think his website and, like, the business, I think all that's still active, isn't it, Aaron?
Yeah, I'm still getting the email. So I did a full year of his thing, and I still get the emails even since he passed every day of, like, here's what's happening today with
Right, it's sick. Well, because he still has a team, and they're still, like, keeping the company.
He has a team that's still going. Yeah, so it's still going. He just passed, which is, we send our love to his family and friends. But it definitely, I mean, anyone working with stuff like he's working with, if they die suddenly without especially without anything like previous to that leads up to that, to where you're like, oh, he's been fighting cancer for a long time, or he's been or whatever, like, you gotta think, like, he probably got taken out. That's the most likely. And for anyone who's new to free energy, the topic of free energy, or doesn't know much, or maybe not much outside of, like, Tesla, about the history, at least in the last 100 years, of, like, how many people have been taken out that have developed free energy or anti-gravity or things like that. There's a really good documentary. It's a Stephen Greer documentary. Even if you don't like Stephen Greer, this is a great documentary on that topic. It's called The Lost Century. Highly recommend you guys watch it. The Lost Century. He goes through the whole last 100 years, or a little over that even, of the history ever since Tesla, and to all the people that have developed free energy technology that should have long since cleaned up the planet, freed humanity, and gotten us off of gas, coal, and oil, and no need for anything, even wars or anything, even money, really. So you just think of how much of it, this type of stuff, is a threat to all these things that are a part of the system.
That plane was there was just a plane taken down with a bunch of doctors on it too.
A bunch of like cancer,
cancer doctors,
doctors
and a
that,
lot of them
they all died in the plane.
A lot of them rebooked at the last minute, but it's been, like you said, it's been happening. But what's also interesting too is not all of them are being taken out; they're being brought in to work for them.
Right.
And
right.
What the way Patrick Riley described it, and he had great research on this. He's going to be one of the speakers at our conference. He said there are like top level scientists doing this type of work that are on the Epstein Island, the client list. And he said that's because these scientists are being brought to the island to be compromised and blackmailed. So
yeah,
you work for us now.
Right.
So like we have to keep in mind also all the people that went to Epstein Island, like they didn't want to. Maybe like this is the deal. You do this or we kill you or whatever. Who knows? And
right.
And they're obviously they have their families are being threatened too. And it's not just it's not a game to these people,
Right. I mean, and they have like when you really go down the rabbit hole of this kind of stuff, like the level of technology that these nefarious players have is beyond what you can imagine. I mean, it just seems like pure magic to us that are not used to it. And so then the question I would have is, well, why are we still here then? Like, why haven't they locked things down already by now? Like, why? Well, the only explanation to that is that we are being protected to some degree, and there's only so much they can do, that they're not as all powerful as they would like you to think they are, or they're like, you can just put it simply, the light is so much more powerful than the dark, and the only reason it has any power is because we give it to them, so that's why really the crux of it is the awakening and taking your power back, and for people to understand that this stuff exists, to understand, to connect spiritually, and to to wake up and take your power back, and make a choice of I think humanity is being given a choice. It comes back to that of like, what do you want to support? So like certain things are being allowed because it is actually still serving to awaken humanity, and it's actually still serving us, even though it sucks and going through things and people are being killed off, and there's all this horrible stuff going on, and it can seem like on paper it can seem like it's so stacked against us that it's like, how are we ever going to get out of this? Well, the fact that they haven't locked things down years and years and years ago tells me everything I need to know, because they would have done it. If they could have done it a long time ago, they would have. Well, they haven't, because they can't, because we're the ones they have to manipulate into doing that, in my opinion, because we do live in a free will universe. And I think it's kind of like they step too far. They then allow the benevolent forces to then come in and intervene. But they have overplayed their hand. And that's why we're getting so much help now, because they've way stacked things so much against us for so long that we're getting so much help coming at this crucial time in history, in this pivotal time, that I think the free energy stuff is going to come out. All this technology is going to come out, but it has to still be a process, and we're giving a chance to simultaneously see what we've been in, awaken to things, awaken to who we are, and to also then make a choice, free will choice to step into that reality, that where we can now responsibly handle this kind of technology. And
all right,
yeah, so it's a process. Yeah, I'm done.
You done?
Anyways, all that being said, like, don't worry that I think Tom was taken out. There's many others that have been taken out. That doesn't mean things are hopeless.
So
like things are still positive.
Next question. Do y'all think the Diddy list will ever come out like the Epstein did not? Who knows? Maybe eventually one day, but everything that happens, every time any information comes out that proves something, that we believed was happened,
Mm-hmm.
it's the damage is done. It's too late. Like I mean, it's like the
Yeah.
damage has been done. So whether the list comes out or not, yeah, it will be impactful. But I feel like by the time all that information comes out, like what's the point? We know we don't need the list to come out. We understand the big picture here. So and I think, you know, like Epstein is low level on the list, Diddy is low level on the list, potentially just fall guys because, you know, gets all the attention on them, even though the fall guy is still like effectively awakening people and it's all backfiring, like Aaron said. There's still people above them and it's still happening. You know, Diddy wasn't the only one, Epstein isn't the only one, and unfortunately it's still happening, but those fall guys are still waking people up, and I think the list, whether it comes out or not, is irrelevant. I mean, it's not irrelevant. It would be amazing to see, so we know. But like I said, the damage is done. We just, you know.
Yeah, I'm gonna answer their question real quick. Zach asks, "Will the positive ETs let a nuclear war in the Middle East happen?" I'm just gonna say, no. They're not gonna let any nuclear war happen because a nuclear explosions don't just affect us, and this is what we really need to understand, and this is why we've been seeing so much intervention for decades and decades with nuclear facilities and missiles by ETs, because it affects them, it affects other dimensions, it affects many other beings and civilizations that have nothing to do with our petty little stupid wars. Plus, we are, in my opinion, a much more special race and on a much more special planet than most of us realize, and that they're not going to allow it for many reasons. Let's just put it that way. And many insiders have said that there's zero chance of a nuclear war happening or a nuclear strike happening for that very reason. Yeah, it's not going to be allowed. I mean, Alex Collier, I think, says this almost every webinar I've heard him do, and almost every speech I've heard him do. He's like, yeah, they're not going to allow nukes. Like, he's been saying this for like 30 years. I mean, Pete Peterson said this. Stephen Greer says this. Gosh, David Wilcock, go down the list. Like, it's like, you know, you have Robert, what's his name? Robert Salas, who worked at the military base in Montana. I can't remember the name at the moment, but he literally worked there in the 60s when it was all shut down by ETs. They saw these UFOs outside, and then everything got shut down. And they were all, you know, guys came in, threatened them all into silence. But now he's able to speak about it, and he's like, yeah, this is real. Like, these craft, these ETs are coming in, shutting down facilities. They're not allowing us to use nuclear weapons, nuclear missiles, because it not only would destroy our entire planet and all of us, make the entire, and by the way, if you understand there's beings living inside the planet, the whole inner Earth topic that we've did a whole webinar on, we would be affecting them too, and they're way more evolved at this point in time than we are, and they're not going to allow it. So even the beings living inside our own planet, they're not going to allow it. Other ETs are not going to allow it because it's affecting way more than just us.
It just
not going to happen.
It's low level fear porn. Like, they're just
low level fear porn.
They're gonna just keep doing the basics, keep using the basic propaganda over and over and over until we just stop falling for it. Nuclear is it's a great one. It's what could be more devastating? What could be more scary?
Right. So they're going to keep saying it, yeah, because they don't want you to know that. They want to just keep that fear porn.
But I mean, if you want to know anything,
fear.
You want to know anything about that, just watch all the original Ancient Aliens. They talk about that stuff all the time. I mean, that's
right.
In my opinion, the whole nuclear war, the nuclear bomb stuff, like, that's old. That's like early UFO information days. Like,
right.
And that's the thing, though. We all blank slate ourselves every day, and we mind wipe ourselves all the time, even as a collective. And, you know, I was listening to some channeled information one time, and the amount, like, we have been so close before, on the precipice of these great awakenings, but we literally collectively mind wipe ourselves back into the matrix. And it's because it's so hard for us to believe, like something like the Mandela effect. I was just recently somewhere, and everybody in the room was talking about the Mandela effect, and literally I couldn't believe my eyes, my ears. Everyone was like, I wonder what it could be. Yeah, it's so weird. I don't know. I'm like, we've all had this conversation a million times. We know it's from the
Right.
time technology and the timeline, like them manipulating the timelines and like all this stuff, the information's out there, but people
Why are we
don't.
still asking them the
Right,
question?
but people don't want to believe it. And I'm
Right.
like, oh, this is what happens. People hear it. They're like, that's too hard. I can't comprehend that. So then it goes back. They literally don't even know that they devolve back into like a programmed mindset where you're like, I wonder what the Mandela effect is. That's weird. And that's it.
Right.
I'm like, you've literally just like unlearned what you learned. But in this time, it was a bad thing. So I get so frustrated with that when a lot of these topics, I'm like,
Right.
how are we asking some of these same questions still? And
Right.
but you can do that too. Like if you wake up and had this incredible dream or something that happened or whatever it is in life, you easily get distracted, and next thing you know, one distraction leads to the next, and then now you've effectively distracted yourself from being present, and that memory, that event now slips away, and you don't even think about it again.
Right.
So anyway,
Right.
do you all think Allie Carter is Tupac's daughter? That's really interesting. I have no idea. I have not heard that. If she is, that's pretty amazing information, but I don't know.
I have no idea. Yeah. I wouldn't do
So
anything.
for those who don't know who Allie Carter is, she was one of the victims of sex trafficking who escaped and told her story, and with damning evidence and naming names. And she was the one who actually talked about the MK Ultra blueprints, which I thought was fascinating because I've never seen anyone talk about them. But people actually have blueprints that like they have their lives mapped out, and they like are literally steering people like through life with these blueprints. It's crazy, but um his name was Lieutenant Tyler. Oh yeah, the ET on Stargate was also Lieutenant Tyler. That's
Oh
hilarious.
yeah. The movie Tenet goes deep into the intricacies of temporal wars.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right, it does. That's a great movie too. That's right.
Yep. Question: do you believe the port strike is really about saving the children? Yeah, we actually talked about that earlier. If you weren't here, it's a potential that's absolutely
Potentially, yeah, it could be.
right.
Somebody though earlier just said they just resolved it. Is that true? Can somebody confirm that? I haven't heard an update on it, but somebody in the comment or somebody in the chat said they just came to an agreement on the strike.
Here's what I took a screenshot of something about the
Port strike update. Port strike ends as workers agree to tentative deal on wages. Okay, so it just ended today, just a few hours ago.
And then here is I took this screenshot. I'll read it. It could be just because we're talking about the ports. Why are U.S. ports being shut down? Question: why are the U.S. ports being shut down? Answer: to remove them from control of the bankrupt U.S. corporation, British Crown, Vatican control, and return them to the American people, and most importantly, to end maritime law. Also to remove the United Nations control under the United Nations International Maritime Organization, which regulates maritime transport and marine and atmospheric pollution by ships. Why is this important? International maritime law is governed by a special agency of the UN, the International Maritime Organization, which controls 80% of the world's trade. So you can get
there you
into
go.
the logistics of it there, but they're not talking about the trafficking. That's
Right.
another.
That might be another layer of what's happening as well, but that makes a lot of sense as well. Yeah, that lines up. So it's actually a good thing, in my opinion.
Question: where would you recommend to visit in St. Louis or Grafton area for some extended time before or after the Rebels of Disclosure conference I am planning on coming this year? Man, I mean, there's so many places. Obviously Cahokia Mounds, but we always go there after the conference. There's a bunch of caves. There's a whole bunch of caves in the area. You want to just research local caves. Yeah, I mean, if you enjoy caves, I would do that. I mean, it's hard to really answer right now, but There's plenty to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. City Museum is like the most unique, cool thing, like unique and fun thing to do.
Right, but I don't
They,
think it's negative energy there.
except for that, right? I mean, put up protection. I would say if you go there, just put a protection. There's, I mean, there's the Arch, obviously. There's botanical gardens. There's Forest Park is amazing. There's tons of stuff in Forest Park, and it's beautiful. There's this.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to the Forest Park, that's the old World's Fair stomping ground.
Yeah,
And
that's where the old World's Fair was.
you could see the old structures that are still standing. You could go to the St. Louis History Museum or the Missouri History Museum and see all the World Fair exhibit, which is mind blowing.
Mm-hmm.
Art museum. It's
Art museum.
Anything in the
The
world.
zoo is there. There's the science center right next to there, which is a paid thing.
Question: any idea who the TBA speakers you guys are looking at placing for the conference? Yes, we do have an idea, but that's all you're going to get right now. Do you think there's a chance the Holocaust, as they describe it, did not happen? I don't know.
I don't know if it, here's what I'll say about that. It's possible that they manipulated details, but clearly it happened. I mean, we have survivors. Like we have people that were like, I firsthand was in those camps and witnessed. So clearly, I can't stand
like with physical markings.
Physical markings. I cannot stand the people that go to the extreme of like, it never happened and the Nazis were actually good guys and Hitler was a good. No. Like, I mean, I just want to like bang my head, no, that's not like people tend to have these like black and white like they think, oh, they lied to us about everything, so everything they say, it's just like flip it completely the opposite. Well, no, it doesn't work like that. Sometimes it does, but most of the time it's not that black and white. Like the thing still happened, it was still horrible, the Nazis were still not good and still I mean, they were essentially a part of the cabal. They were a manifestation of it, essentially. I don't know if 6 million Jews that, that might have been a made up number still. It might not have been nearly that number, but that doesn't mean there wasn't still a ton, it might have been 1 million. It might have been 500,000. I don't know. I don't know the exact number. That might have been, so details might not be accurate. And maybe, yes, there was, details of like, people are like, well, Germany, was basically pushed into, on the surface level, there's deeper you got to understand there's deeper layers to everything, and there's more going on.
The corruption is at all levels, and it happens.
Right.
And there's reasons for things that we may never understand. We don't know why decisions are made. We don't know what type of blackmailing was occurring. We don't know the details. We only know the history that we were told.
Right.
But there are, like Aaron said, survivors. But what's interesting is the Nazi sympathizer information and all that stuff, the Holocaust never happened information comes from German documents. Now,
right.
And it's been like leaked over to the United States and stuff. Like what better way? Of course, they want to be painted as the good guys. So of course,
right. of course,
information is going to be leaked from them. Like, oh, we didn't do that. We're actually great. Here, read this paper. It says so.
Like a certain individual who was on our show
a
while back, who I'll not name. That was the proof. Yeah. Anyways, yes, no, it absolutely happened, and it was absolutely horrible. And no, the Nazis, I mean, it sucked because the swastika is a very ancient, beautiful ancient symbol that appears throughout the whole world in these ancient places, and they basically usurped that symbol and used it for them, and now everyone thinks it's a hate symbol. Well, it's not. It's an ancient symbol it's been around for many thousands of years.
Right.
But they were very interested in the occult and in esoteric everything. And then Tibet, they went to Tibet, they went to all these places, and they were basically, they knew about the inner earth stuff. They knew about ETs. They knew about other life on other planets, and they knew that all this occult stuff was real. So they were ahead of us on the curve of like figuring out like, hey, this stuff's real, but unfortunately their consciousness was like, we're gonna use that for power over others instead of like for the benefit of humanity. So they wanted to take over the world, and they wanted only their group to be in power.
Well,
And
and you know what's interesting?
that's what was
What's
going on.
what's interesting about that and the real dominant and all of that, reading the Sands of Times books. So if those diaries are legitimate, which I believe they are,
Yeah.
he talks about the reason it even happened. So these are details we don't think about. So they did channel, the Vril Daman did channel information and built a UFO, and
Mhm.
it ended up they crashed on a test flight, and they didn't have the funds to acquire the material to build another one. So they literally had to get like Karl Haushofer, Hans Kammler, like a whole,
Mhm.
like all the top level Nazis at the time, in the middle of, I forget where it was, in like the snowy mountains in some private room. And they performed a seance, a ritual essentially to show them their power, that they were actually who they said they were,
Yeah.
because they needed more funding. And they're like, listen, we can do this stuff. We can build you one of these. But the reason that they even wanted the funding to build another one was so they can get back home. They didn't really know what the Germans or what the Nazis were going to use the
Right.
technology for. So it's really interesting to think about, like, they're in a life or death situation. They don't want to be here. They're just trying to get home. So they're like, oh, these guys will pay for us to build a craft to get
They
back
were
home.
just they were just using them as a means to their own ends, and
Right.
they in fact didn't even want to do that because they knew the evil nature of these psychopaths, but they were like kind of like, oh well, you're a necessary evil for us to create this craft so that we can get back home. But unfortunately the byproduct of that was what we saw play out with the Nazis.
Right. The Nazis, secret space, all that stuff.
Right. Unfortunately, that's what ended up happening, because you can't, once you put that cat out of the bag and give, it's gonna leak, and they're gonna, like, because they tried to create, like in the Sands of Time, they go through that whole story of like they tried to create the craft to where it would work for just long enough that the Nazis essentially would test it out and be like, oh, this is amazing, but then it would like not work well
Have
enough,
an expiration date, yeah.
have an expiration date, and then they would never be able to basically build the real thing themselves to weaponize. But unfortunately, they ended up actually doing that, unfortunately, and the rest is history.
What do you know about deep breathing and reverse age and illness? I mean, I don't know a lot, but I know it's possible. Breath work's very important. I don't do it all the time, but there are times when I do it and I feel amazing after I do it. And I'm like, why don't I always do this? Reverse aging, I think, it has everything to do with diet in all forms, not just what you eat and drink, but your environment, who you surround yourself with, what you watch, all that stuff. I know like there's supplements out there and like herbs and stuff that actually help with, like ashwagandha is really great for like reverse aging and wrinkles, and there's a lot out there.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about the quantum dots that have been found in certain props? What could they be used for? Do you know what that means, Aaron?
Quantum dots.
It says, what do you guys think about the quantum dots that have been found in certain pops?
I have no idea what that means.
Maybe you can reword that, Braden, and then we'll answer it.
Yeah, can you reword that maybe? We don't know what you mean.
Question, if you had kids, what would you like to teach the most and the least? I would first and foremost make sure that they know that to not believe everything they read online, because these kids that find their way onto your phone or your iPad and they start reading stuff and watching videos, and the kids are also the target audience too with a lot of this misinformation, and especially historical stuff, and they don't know what to believe. So you have to constantly, like, I would be monitoring what any sort of social media intake, anything. If I had a kid, I would be like, just don't believe it, and I would explain to them why people lie and why you have to basically red pill your kid, but
You're right.
you have to. I mean, that's the big thing.
To put it simply, teach your kids how to think, not what to think.
Right.
You can present them at all the research and things that you believe, but be like, don't just believe it because I'm saying it, because then you're teaching them the opposite of that, right? So you like do your own research on it, and
Right.
teach you how to discern, how to critically think, how to tap into your intuition and feel into things and understand energy and all this kind of stuff. Teach them the basics, you know, the core basics, and then they're gonna become, you know, grow into their own sovereignty, without just being like, well, this is what my parents told me, or my dad or whatever mom told me, and then they get to the point in the future where you never really taught them anything beyond just telling them what to think, and then they're gonna like rebel probably, and they're gonna end up, you know, who knows, you know, not saying they're going to, but you really have to instill, you know, the core principles and things into your children, to so that in the future that will blossom from that.
Yeah, so I agree. And then somebody said I'm on Tom Paladino's Scalar website and it sounds amazing. Have either of you tried it? Yes, we both tried it. It's amazing.
It is amazing. Yes.
I definitely noticed when I did it, especially right off the bat. Actually, I forgot that he was running it on me. And then I was like, oh, I've been feeling great for 3 days. And I'm like, oh, like, I wonder if it has anything to do with this, like, scalar energy that's being, you know, directed towards me every day, the scalar light. So, question, whose van is going to haul the PA and lawn chairs this year? Uh, you know, it's interesting. So,
I don't know whose is it. Whose is?
so talking about like, I want to talk about like food and drinks for a second. You know, we had oh my God, Bradley Love's on. He was talking about synthetic telepathy and how they can basically mind control people via nanotechnology, but in like a Mountain Dew or a drink, right? And you
Mhm.
could drink it, and the nanotech takes over and effectively starts controlling your mind. And we've seen like videos and all this stuff, these TikTok videos and stuff of Pepsi and Coke products, like apparently have a nanotech in it, and then people put it under the
Mhm.
microscope, and it sure looks like it, right? Obviously, you never know what to believe. So I I have to admit, I don't drink energy drinks. I used to be addicted to it when I was younger, and I got off of it because at 25, I had literally had a mini stroke because I was just going crazy.
They're dangerous, man. Yeah, on top of, yeah.
And so I just stay away from them now.
Mm.
And I don't know what came over me the other day, a couple weeks ago. I decided I was just at the gas station and I'm like, you know what? I used to drink Full Throttle, like the one that's made by
Yeah,
Coca-Cola.
I remember that one. Yeah.
Right, and it sounded like for some reason it just sounded good to me. And like I don't know, it just looked good. I'm like, you know what, screw it.
Yeah.
What's gonna hurt? I took it, I drank it, and it was fine. But I felt something was way off afterwards. I didn't feel right. I actually got very sick. I got ill, like not violently ill, but I got like flu-like symptoms. By the time I
Yeah.
woke up the next morning, I was actually sick. But you know, every once in a while I get like I hear like telepathic words and downloads and stuff. And I just kept hearing nanotech, nanotech. And I'm like, oh fuck.
Really.
Like I'm like, I just literally drank a can of nanotech. Like it's in the energy drinks. And I just like felt like I got this whole download. I'm like, that's exactly why the energy drinks take up 5 bays in the gas station.
Right. It like every year it's like it gets bigger.
Right. So, and I'm like, oh shit, there's real nanotech in here and I'm experiencing it. So my body had such a visceral reaction. Like I got legitimately sick. And I even had a dream that night of like these little tiny like parasites like crawling around inside. Like I seen them. I'm like, so I'm like, fuck, I gotta do another parasite cleanse. But it was such a lesson for me. I'm like, oh my, like you can't even try to step back into that old world and your old ways. Once
Mm.
you're like cleaning your body up and you try to drink that poison again, it does
Yeah.
not mix. It's
Body
not,
just will reject it. Right.
it's literally non-compatible.
Right.
And so, I mean, it was just a, you know, the realization like, wow, we talk about this stuff. I've read about it, I've watched the videos, but here I am like experiencing it. So stay away from Full Throttle, any of the energy, any of them actually.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's probably levels to like which one, like Monster and Red Bull and Full Throttle and Rockstar. Those are probably like the worst, maybe, but like they're none of them are good. Like even the ones you think, oh, these are better. Like no, they're still
Right.
unless it's natural ingredients, like you're getting natural from,
I
a
think
green tea or whatever is in it.
I think
Uh,
it's the same way with the beer too. Because in the show The Inside Job on Netflix, in that show, every time they're drinking beer, they're drinking Mick Ultras, but Mick is spelled with a K, so it's MK Ultras.
MK Ultra.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, the beer is literally the MK Ultra program. That's what they're
Yeah.
trying to say. And
They're
they're all,
literally
and anytime that I decide I want to have a drink, like in the past 2 years, I immediately feel brain fog and dumb. Like feel it lower my IQ.
yeah.
And it immediately you just don't care about reading a book anymore. You just rather watch TV. Like it just starts doing things to you, right? And it is the MK Ultra. The like beer is Mick Ultra. Obviously, maybe Mick Ultra in particular is one that has more of it, but um, I just find it all very fascinating. Like the lengths, like there is no line they won't cross. Like I said
Right.
earlier.
Well, we know the food system's weaponized. So why wouldn't they also highly weaponize the drinks as well as the foods, right? Of course.
Oh,
Of course they're
dude.
gonna do
So
that.
literally, this also goes back to when I was 19 years old. I used to drink the Red Bull colas. If anybody remembers those, there's a Red Bull and then a Red Bull cola.
I don't even remember that actually.
So,
That was a
the,
thing.
yeah, it was a thing.
Wow.
And it's like an amped up, like it gave you like double wings, you know what I mean? Like,
Double wins. Yeah.
right. So I would drink them like every day. I was like I said, I was hooked on energy drinks. I was in construction. I was buzzing around the job, thinking I had all this energy. I was really killing myself. But
Right.
all of a sudden, I was, by the way, I was like a goody goody when I was in high school and out of high school. I didn't do a drug in my life until like my later adult years. And I had never done a drug in my life up until that point. So all of a sudden we get random, Aaron, are you frozen? Are you there? Or are you
I'm
just
here.
reading?
Am I frozen?
I know, I thought you froze. So anyway, I get random drug tested like you do in construction. They came on a job site and they're like, you test positive for cocaine. I'm like, yeah, right. Like I've never done a drug in my life. You're joking, right? And she's like, no, you gotta go. And they literally like I had to drop my tools and escort me off the job and I'm suspended for 2 weeks. Like it was this whole big scene.
Wow.
And I'm like, how is this even possible? I've never touched cocaine a day in my life, And this is how it all played out. So like whatever the following weekend was, I went to the bar with my friends, we were out drinking, and I saw the TV in the corner. It was like a scene from a movie, and it was a news report of traces of cocaine found in Red Bull Cola recalled. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding?
That's
I
what it
literally
was.
just there was so much cocaine in the Red Bull Cola that it showed up on my drug test and got me suspended from work for 2 weeks. I mean, that's insane. But I
It's
know like the
insane.
original Coca-Cola used to have cocaine in it.
Right.
But
Right.
it was like they kind of brought that recipe back, but look what happened to me because of it.
Well, that's what the name so cocaine comes from the coca leaf, and that's
Right,
Coca-Cola.
right.
We're literally using that in the drink, and yeah. Before, but that was before it became like synthesized into the cocaine we know today. That was like a long time ago, but it was still essentially the same thing.
Right.
Um, but yeah, that's crazy. I didn't know that. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah.
like poppy seeds with like opium.
Right. Yeah.
Like you don't want
Opium.
to eat poppy seeds before a drug test because they'll show up as opium.
Right. Yeah. I mean, honestly, though, it was kind of a blessing in disguise at the time how my dad was building his house and he was like desperate for help. So I had 2 weeks off work now and I would just like help him every day on his house. And it was weird how it all worked out. And we
Right.
met some deadlines that we weren't going to meet, So it all works out. But
Mm.
it was a lesson. I mean, I was like, and I tried to explain to the company and they're like, the only thing you can do is have the same urine retested, but you can't do another test. Like,
Yeah.
uh, so,
There's nothing you could do, unfortunately. Yeah.
right. Um, anything, anything else? I think we're coming up on hour and 45 minutes now. I did want to talk about 23andMe. That's right. Did you see how there's all the news about 23andMe and the CEO resignations?
Yeah, I did.
And and then did you see the one guy who literally sent in saliva from a lizard and it came back like 48% West Asian and 51% or 52%
Ashkenazi Jew.
Jewish. Yeah, Jew.
Yeah, it's hilarious. So
But
it's all just BS. It
well,
is, you know.
wasn't it Brooks Agnew that was telling the story like he knew the guy or somebody like his brother or somebody like who had literally started 23andMe, and the whole thing he said was he told it in one of our interviews or at the conference or somewhere, but he said the whole thing was literally designed to track people's DNA.
Yeah,
and
100%.
and wherever it's used, who knows? It's being sent to cloning facilities. You never know. But it was never meant for us at all. It was just how they had to sell it to us.
But now
Like,
that cover's clearly been blown, where we're like, oh,
right. I mean, but what better way to collect DNA samples from the entire population? By trick them to sending them to you. Same
Right.
with blood, like these blood type
Right.
diets and stuff. I'm like, there's no way I'm sending my blood through the mail for you to tell me like what I should be eating or whatever the hell it is.
Right. Yeah, they got to give you they come up with the excuse to get you to do it. And then, they have the cover of, oh, this is what it's for, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Classic. Yeah, that's what they always do. And then, they got your DNA now.
Yeah, okay. People are wanting to talk about this solar flare. I forgot we had that. What was like an X9, like the hot
X9, X8,
Yeah.
and then an X9 right after that. Yeah.
right, which was the largest in this like 25-year cycle or whatever.
Yeah.
Largest yet, anyway.
Yeah.
I probably felt the effects of it. I have been like my sleeping patterns have been all over the place, and I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's been the solar flares. But any thoughts on a cataclysmic solar flare? I don't think that's happening. I think that it's been mitigated. I think that there are, I don't know, spheres, bubble. I feel like there's like dampeners,
Yeah.
like filters, you could say, that are literally lessening the effects as it reaches Earth.
Yeah.
And it's not going to kill us all. Maybe at one point, like we were expecting a solar flash where, we used to all hear about.
Yeah.
Maybe that was propaganda. Maybe it was exactly what we needed to hear to get us to learn lessons and get us to the next over the hump. But in my opinion, like what Aaron said, this technology is unfathomable. It's beyond what you can imagine. And it's massive in ways that we don't understand that they can literally filter out solar flares before they hit the planet with technology, like right outside the sun. So
Yeah. They're not going to allow that to happen. Yeah. The most they would allow, like you said, they would dampen it to where we'll get some kind of effect, but it's not going to be a devastating blow, or a pole shift or anything like that. They're not. I don't think any of that's going to be allowed. I don't see why they do all this work to get us to this point and then just like we're just going to let the planet be destroyed and everything, all you guys everything wiped out and all this devastation. No, like it doesn't make any sense. Like we're being protected. Again, they're not doing everything for us. They're protecting. They're kind of like shielding us so that nothing like that happens, but that they're not going to come in and be our saviors at the same time. So like we have to work out our own shit and get to a certain level before they can really start openly. ET contact can really openly happen rather than just the individual.
It reminds me of that old commercial. I don't remember. I just saw it pop up on Instagram again, where the kid's about to stick something in the socket in the outlet, and the mom's gonna stop him. And dad's like, "No, let him do it." And the kid sticks it in there and like shocks him, and he flies back, and he's like, "You never do that again." Like it feels like that's what they're like letting us learn the hard way,
Yep, that was a great analogy. Perfect.
Like
analogy.
let them let them stick the fork in the outlet and see what happens.
They know it's okay. It's not going to kill them, but they're gonna they're gonna learn the hard way. And don't ever do that again. Right. We got to learn some lessons the hard way, and that's what we're kind of going through right now.
Yeah. So Do you think allergy reactions can be disguised as energy attacks? Tongue swelling? Yeah, absolutely. If you look up voice of God technology and what it's capable of, and like look at the diagram of the human body that shows like how every part of the body can be affected, absolutely, they can give you allergies, make your tongue swell, any of it, all of the above, basically any physical ailment that you could think of. I would say can come from an energy attack, energy weapon, but I also don't think that we should play the victim and always blame it on an energy, because sometimes it's not, and I see that happening a lot. I also interesting, like I find it interesting that ascension symptoms, I do believe are a real thing. There are effects from the solar flares and all that stuff, right? But at the same time, it's not always an ascension symptom. There's underlying issues within yourself that need to be addressed, and you can't just write it off as, oh, it's just I'm ascending.
Yeah.
Like
You just blanket everything as an ascension symptom or
and
attack.
you can't, and you also like can't rule out like sometimes the ascension symptom might even be a direct energy weapon. Like you really have to understand, like this is so layered, and anytime something's going on with you, I don't ever just write it off as an ascension symptom. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, this really does feel like it's from the solar energy right now. But other times I'm like, no, this is off. You really just gotta feel into it.
Right.
They're putting mRNA vax in your food now. I believe that. I mean, if they're injecting anything into the meat supply, then
Yeah, so be very careful of what foods you're eating. Be
right,
very, very careful of what you're putting in your body, what foods you're eating.
right.
High
High blood pressure is increasing ascension symptoms. Ignore, please don't. No. So glad you all decided to do this tonight. Yeah, thank you guys all for being here. And if you guys weren't here at the beginning, we just announced our conference for 2025, Rebels of Disclosure, is in Grafton, Illinois again, May 12th through the 15th. We announced some of the lineup, and more information and speakers will be announced as we get them confirmed. But take advantage of the early bird tickets. It's only $355, and that includes the live stream pass and a t-shirt. And that discount ends on Black Friday, and you can get the live stream pass discounted also for $55 until Black Friday. And then after that, it's just back to the normal price, and we can't wait. We cannot wait to see. It's going to be fun. I mean, every year it's just been getting bigger and better, and we're already happy with the lineup, the people we have so far. It's going to be solid. It's going to be solid.
Yeah.
Where is it again? Grafton, Illinois. The link is in the description below. If you were here earlier, I pulled up the website and scrolled through it a little bit.
If you don't know where Grafton, Illinois is,
it's like St. Louis metro area.
It's St. Louis metro on the Illinois side. So a lot of people just think Chicago because it's Illinois, but it's not. It's so go to St. Louis on a map and then just go right across barely onto the Illinois side.
It's not even an hour from the St. Louis airport.
Right. So if you fly, you're gonna fly into the St. Louis airport to get there.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so we're very excited about that. And guys, next weekend I'm going to be in Springfield, Missouri for the XCon event, Margie Kay's conference, and I'm doing the presentation on the history of the Secret Space program, which is really coming together. So if you're in the area, if you're around Springfield, it might be worth driving up and hanging out for the weekend. She threw a great event last year. It was she knows how to throw a party. And it was a lot of fun. It's at the Oasis Hotel in Springfield, Missouri, which, by the way, we found out the hard way last year is a haunted hotel. So if you're going, put up protection, but there was some really crazy like stuff that happened. This year they're going to plan on doing like ghost hunts and stuff. It's more of like a paranormal cryptid UFO conference, but it's still a good vibe. It's good people, and you can grab a ticket. And if you're in the Springfield area, it's not too late. Head out, and love to see you there. Anything else, Aaron?
No. Hold on. What somebody said. I'm from Illinois, but I live in North Carolina now. Hope to make it to. Just looking at the chat a little bit. Nope,
So
nothing
by the
else.
way, the 2026 conference will be in a new location,
Yes.
not because we hate Grafton. We have an amazing relationship with them, but we're just going to change it up. And we might end up back at Grafton one day as like a reunion conference. But we have actually, I haven't even told you, we have a phone call with those girls about the potential event in
Oh,
2026
awesome.
this coming week. So I don't want to give you guys any, like, I don't want to reveal too much, but it's going to be pretty amazing if we pull it off, and we're really excited. It's going to be a big change up, but it'll be awesome. So stay tuned for that. We'll let you know when we find out. But yeah, so this year, if you haven't been to the Grafton conference, it's the last year, not the last year, but next year it won't be in Grafton. So if you want to come and check it out, because it is an amazing, beautiful place, now's your time.
This will be the last year in Grafton or in the Pierre Marquette Lodge, potentially. I mean, like you said, we might do it
right
a ways down the line again, but for at least a while, this will be the last one there. So
I definitely think at one point bring it back for like a reunion,
oh yeah,
where it all started type of thing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And we'll see how it goes. Like, we'll just see what happens. Literally, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So it's even to plan that far ahead is like impossible. So we'll just see what happens. And yeah, the lodge is a beautiful area. Like, it really is. Like, it is like the veil's thin there. There's been amazing UFO and Sasquatch and elemental activity. And it's just like a great getaway, honestly.
Yeah. I'll post the link in the chat real quick.
Yeah.
There you go.
Are you having Robert Seffer there? I don't know. I haven't walked around. I don't know. Question: does anyone know or wonder what all these purple streetlights are for? Yeah, so I literally heard a guy in the arm. This is a crazy story. I was at Daryl James' birthday party a few years ago. One of his friends came over with her boyfriend, who's ex-military, right? And he sat there and told us that the purple lights were for tracking COVID vaccines. He said it had something to do with tracking. They could tell who's been jabbed and who's not, and it like had other reasons. But he said that that's what it was for. And he said a bunch more, but I didn't really like. There was some other people talking, and I didn't retain it all. So I reached out to that friend again. I said, "Hey, can you ask your boyfriend like what he said about that? I don't remember." And he literally acts like he doesn't know. He doesn't remember
Really
talking about that. He like just doesn't. He doesn't know what I'm talking about. Like he said he never said that. I'm like, no, I know you said it. Like even Daryl's like, yeah, I remember him saying something like that. So anyway, it's the weirdest thing.
Like mind wiped.
Yeah, like I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or he's threatened or who knows what, right?
Yeah. So because I tried to ask her, and even she remembered. Like even she was like, "Oh yeah," and then she was like, "I don't know, it's the weirdest thing." He's saying that he gave me like some surface level explanation now, and like nothing to do with
Yeah,
me.
the reprogramming happened. Yeah,
I don't know, but
or
anyway,
something
really,
shady going on there. I mean that checks out. That
yeah,
checks out.
Matthew Morgan was there. He said, "I remember."
Yeah,
I mean,
there you go.
I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was something along those lines, and I might be mistaken. Like I could be mistaken about what he said, but I think it was something along the lines.
But he would at least correct you. He wouldn't just say, "Oh no, I never said anything like that."
Yeah. Anyway, so I tried to inquire. I just found it interesting. The same thing happened whenever so there was a channel on YouTube that was uploading all the Max Spears interviews, and like, all of them. And I was like,
yes, that's right. Similar thing.
Somebody found them all, and like because they're so hard to find. I mean, they're so hard. They're buried, especially certain ones. So somebody found them all and they put them all on their YouTube channel. And then I went on there one day and all of them were gone. They had other content on there. So I emailed the girl and said, hey, what happened to all the Max Spears interviews you used to have? And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like I used to come to your channel and watch the Max Spears interviews and blah, blah, blah. And we went back and forth. She literally either was playing dumb. I don't know what, if she was mind wiped or she was threatening to take him down. I don't know, but she had no idea what I
Yeah.
was talking about. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. You had like 15 to 20 Max Spears interviews here and they're gone now. And she didn't know. So,
Or at least she claims.
or timeline shift, like
Or
Victor said.
timeline shift, or is that a Mandela effect? Right? Who knows?
Matthew said that. Okay, so he said, I remember he did say something about tracking and then said they were defective units in process of being replaced. Okay.
Well, there you go.
Interesting. Yeah, I always wondered about those too, and I would love a real explanation of what they're actually doing. Okay, guys, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. We've been here for about 2 hours now, so thank you guys all for being here. The information for the conference is below. Come out to Springfield next weekend if you can, or Sedona the following weekend after that. I'll be in Sedona for the Odyssey event. And then I'm speaking at the Star Knowledge Conference in South Dakota in November. It's a busy schedule coming up. So all those links are below in the description. We love you all. We can't do this without you. Thank you guys all for being here. Yeah, Aaron just put it in the chat. If there's not anything else, guys, go buy Aaron's book if you haven't yet. We just added the link to his book to our website. So if you just scroll down on the website, you can find it there too. But that link is below in the description as well. It's a fantastic book. Leave a good review. He will appreciate it.
Yes, I would.
All right, guys. Good night. We love you. Until next time, have a great evening. Signing off.
Yeah, guys. Love you all.